So here we are, sharing secrets of the soil with me, your host, Regen Ray. Hello soil lovers, Regen Ray here, and welcome to another episode of Secrets of the Soil. But this is our new segment called the Regenerative Hour. Welcome, Teale. How you doing?
G'day everyone. Hope you've enjoyed the last two podcasts or videos. So we're here with a third.
Excellent. And so today we're going to go a little bit deeper and jump straight into it. We got some really good feedback that everyone's loving this kind of conversational discussion where it's not really an interview with a guest. So we're going to keep running with it. And so if you've ever got your ideas of what you would like us to dig deeper into, then please let us know. But today we got some questions about what the MetaTrees project was, and we kind of skimmed over it as like one of the projects that we did together, but we didn't really go deeper into it. And have to say that it's probably a great project to dig deeper into and explain what MetaTrees is all about. And so, Teale, do you want to share your thoughts on what the whole MetaTree project is about?
Yeah. Firstly, it's awesome that people are really interested in it. I guess this started back when Ray and I met, and so we, were brainstorming what can we do to really help regenerative agriculture and to bring this into, I guess, everyone's minds. And so we came up with the idea of a tree planting project, which is the MetaTrees project. And basically, it all started from there. So effectively, what we're doing is we're planting 1,000 trees. We've partnered with Michael Taylor. So if anyone has heard of him, he has a farm up in New England area. Yeah, I think it's near Armidale.
Yep.
And so we're partnered with him to plant 1,000 trees on his property. And effectively, we're giving everyone the opportunity to almost adopt a tree, so support a tree, fund the planting of this tree, which is pretty cool. Bring everyone aboard for the journey.
Yeah.
You reckon, right?
Yeah, I agree. And Michael was really referred on to us by someone when they heard the MetaTrees project, because they're like, you're growing, you're planting trees, you're looking for a site to host these trees. You need to talk to Michael Taylor. He runs Taylor's Run. And he's been planting trees on his own accord for many, many years. And in fact, if you zoom out on his farm, there's a group of trees that's in the shape of a frog, and it's all part of the project that's bringing, the frog, attention to the frog species in the area and creating wetlands and his trees follow contours. And what really attracted, I guess, me and us to this Michael Taylor is the fact that he was already planting trees with a purpose and a function and understanding how trees work in the landscape. And that's at our core what MetaTrees was all about, is that we wanted to have a tree planting project that went against the grain of your 1 billion tree planting kind of things. $1 a tree, we're going to plant 1 billion trees in straight lines, and it's monoculture. And
same species, doesn't have much function.
Doesn't feel natural. So why, do you want to talk to that? Like, why is trees in straight lines, monoculture, single species kind of not a good way of planting trees?
Yeah, so I guess when we look at tree planting projects as they currently are, it's typically you have like maybe 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 if you're lucky, different species of trees. And when we look at nature, that's not how nature functions. Nature is very diverse, and when you have diversity, it brings functionality. So you have a whole different range of habitats for different animals and birds. You have different root zones. Different species give different functions to your landscape. And so when we think of like what is a regenerative farm, or what would a regenerative tree planting project look like? It's not just we're going to pick a gum tree and plant just gum trees in straight lines, and it's all going to be very uniform and gum trees. It's going to be, it's going to look like nature. And so if we're going to have a project that's like that, we need to almost mimic nature. And so with the MetaTrees project, I can't remember quite exactly how many species, but it's up past 30, I think. Like it's a very diverse range of trees. Not all native, so a lot are natives. I think 70% are native. But then also to increase biodiversity, you want to have select species that increase the functionality of the landscape that might not be native. Just because it's not native doesn't mean it's not beneficial.
Yeah. And I think that's what's really interesting. Like maybe there is the need of 1,000 trees in one contour, but it serves a purpose. Is it, been selected to be a windbreak? Is it selected to, have a particular function? Some trees might be planted on landscapes to slow down the water flow in the event of rain and to hold water on the property for as long as it possibly can. If people are following natural sequence farming and they want to put trees along, that water catchments and the contours to keep the water on the property for as long as possible. I think that's what's really important, is that the tree is planted with a particular function and purpose. It's not just, we're doing 1,000 trees just because it's...
Yeah, just to get the number up.
Yeah.
It's not a million trees because we're just going to plant a million trees and half of them are going to die.
That's exactly right. And that's actually a really good point. All those people that donate to these tree funds, and it's $1 a tree. Like that
sounds good.
Sounds good, but it's like, it kills me because the success rate on that is probably like every 1 in 10 trees, or maybe even
less
than that. Yeah. Maybe 5 in 100 trees actually succeed. So like a lot of that money is going to what they call the strike rate. Is the strike rate of those trees going to take off? And so it's kind of like an insurance policy. So, our kind of thing was, why not plant trees with care and attention to detail and put tree guards around it, and you're adopting it, you're owning it, you're tracking it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, what makes MetaTrees unique. And it's the fact that we collect that metadata and you get access to it. But, so many of those people that give money thinking that they're doing the right thing, which is great because something's better than nothing. Yeah. But a lot of those funds go down the drain because companies want to just mass seed or mass introduce trees into the landscape without the care, and then 90% of them die. Which means it's like a waste of trucking, a waste of growing, a waste of planting. It's like there's a lot of waste that comes from that.
Yeah, which also means your if you think of like the impact per tree, it's almost lower because you have to plant, or you have to move 20 trees or seedlings to then get one successful one. So if you think of the space that 20 seedlings take up on a truck,
and like multiply,
water, because then you're not just watering one plant, you're watering 10 trees. I mean, half of them, like, they're all going to die except one. But if it takes 5 years before they all kind of die, then it's effectively watering one tree 20 times.
Yeah.
Whereas you could just really look after that one tree and get all the benefits.
And I think this is what the industrial age has kind of created, is how do we run a machine in an open, cleared landscape and plant thousands of trees in straight lines. It's easy for the mechanical side of things, where we had the challenge of how do we personally, which was one of the ideas, is that we're going to roll up our sleeves and go plant these trees, or partner with someone and remunerate them with a reasonable fee in order for them to plant and care and increase the strike rate, whether they're inoculated with a mycorrhizal fungi or whether they are, put in soil that's been properly cared for and prepared at the right time, around rainfall, like all these things really matter. Like those 1,000 tree projects, not to diss the efforts,
we're really putting that down.
Well, I think when you look into those, like when you actually follow the money, they're actually owned by a lot of like, bad-ish companies where they're trying to do good with their money, and a lot of those trees will get thinned out for logging down the track, and
or they'll use that basically funding their biodiversity credits or carbon credits.
Yeah.
Whereas this,
or they clear this land and they plant that land, and it's it's a positive to a negative. So we wanted more of like a plus system, which is like, how do we not clear any trees but grow trees or plant trees? And I think the point I try and make when I shed light on these platforms is just go deeper than, I'm doing good, I'm planting 10 trees. Like, see who actually owns that company, where the money's coming from. Is it actually a mining company, justifying, offsetting their bad over here to look like they're doing good over here? And this is all true. Like, go Google it and go explore it. It's, or is it a big investment fund that is losing on the tree planting, but they're going to then get their reward when they log, every third tree and thin it out and they go and turn that into timber, and they've also sequestered carbon and they're selling carbon credits. So it's basically your dollar to fund that tree is a loss leader to them making 100x that down the track. So you miss out on that opportunity, and you miss out on having a say of locking that carbon into the tree and protecting that tree. And I think that's why our model of adopting a tree is more like on par with adopting a koala. You get to meet it. It has a name, I guess, with a koala. Our trees can be planted in honor of someone, so they can be named. We know the geolocation of it, like exactly where it's
species,
planted.
the function. Yeah, that's all getting uploaded onto the website. So we've got a map, so you can see the location of each, the species, the function. So everything you want to know about your tree, I guess.
And why is that important? Like, why do you think that sense of ownership and that having that one-to-one relationship with a tree is important?
I guess it just brings you closer to impact. Yeah. So knowing, I supported a casuarina tree, which is typically, I think in a bit more wet areas, it slows down the flow. It stabilizes, riverbanks, that kind of thing. So to know that you've supported a casuarina tree, this location, it's doing this function, it's a lot more impactful than going, I gave $20, which hypothetically is going to support 20 trees of this other company.
Yeah.
It's not on farms. It's land that's been taken out of production. That's not really going to be used for much. It doesn't add any biodiversity because it's going to be the same tree. Yeah.
Yeah. That whole monoculture side of things, I think, is a missing link. Is that, people don't realize that fields and fields of the one species, whether it be corn, soy, grapes, trees, creates a monoculture where maybe only one or two species of bugs thrive in that area, and it breaks that ecosystem of all the beneficial bugs working together with the non-beneficial bugs, and creates this kind of ecosystem of balance. It throws the balance out of line. And when you look at nature, it does need to be that kind of hierarchy of not just the bugs and the things below the soil and on the soil, but the birds and the snakes and the foxes and the owls. Like, all of those play a part in solving one of nature's problems. I think, so that's... but to the point of like the one-to-one to a tree, I think it's about, one of the things that we talk a lot about in our businesses and even just what I do personally is like, how do we reconnect people back to the farmer or to the food system? And I think sponsoring a tree or, adopting a tree means that you now have a direct line of reconnecting to a tree that's planted maybe, miles away. Like, we've had people buy trees from America and supporting, the Australian farmers and the Australian landscape. I think it's a bragging right. It's like, oh, I own a tree in Australia, and, it's tree number, 64, and it's this species, and it's currently 2 years old. And, it reconnects you back to the landscape of understanding that your impact can be quite useful and it has amplified, talking to friends, bragging about it, So I think that's like, one of the things is like that reconnection back to nature, that smallens the gap of people living in cities and not really understanding or not being aware of what's going on behind the scenes, bringing that awareness and conversations like this where we get to talk about the project, and maybe someone listening goes, I didn't know that is happening. Like, I want to look deeper into that. And so that way they go down their own journey. Yeah.
And it's not about like buying a MetaTree. It's more just knowing if you are supporting projects like this, it's like, what is the actual impact of what you're doing? So if you do go ahead and support, I don't know any other funds that are kind of doing this. But just knowing like, are those trees actually getting planted? How long are they surviving to? What's the function of these type of trees? All of that.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And the story that goes around, and like even the fact that. I find it interesting that we've discovered, Michael Taylor and, the fact that he'd been doing so many tree planting projects on his family farm. But, he was also Farmer of the Year last year, the year before.
2022.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Last year. Yeah, 'cause it's 2020.
He's a Nuffielder this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like he's someone who's walking the walk, you know. That's what I thought was really interesting. And like Michael's gone out there and planted the trees. He's sent us videos. He's like, guys, you know, the first tree's in the ground. Like he's helping us bridge that gap to the MetaTree owners and adopters. You know, we're able to send those videos to our community and say, the first trees are in the ground. And, you know, while that's kind of done now, the first batch of trees are in, we've got this small batch of trees that are unadopted, which is, you know, one of the next challenges to overcome. But I think that's what's kind of exciting is that like the first batch of trees are in the ground and we now need other people to go and adopt those trees and kind of claim that tree as their own and follow the journey of that. Is there anything you want to share about Michael? Like you've spent, you know, quite a lot of time chatting to him. Is there anything that kind of stood out for you?
He's just genuine. Like, he really cares about his farm, improving the diversity on his farm. Yeah, I think like he's done massive for his farm and the amount of trees that he's planted. So it's awesome to be able to help plant more trees on his farm and invite everyone along on that journey.
What stood out for me was the fact that he had this long-term vision on the farm where I think I meet a lot of farmers virtually, not physically. You do more the physical meeting. I do the Zoom meetings. But everyone has more of a season-to-season view on their farm.
Yeah, true.
You know, next season I'm planting this. You know, 2 years, I don't know, depends where I'm at. But Michael had this kind of vision of like what his farm would look like 10, 15, 20 years into the future. And his tree planting schedule, so to speak, is like years and years. He knows that, you know, next year he wants to plant these species over here. And he was inviting school kids to come in and run programs with local schools to, I believe the frog
that was a school
project. I was like, wow, like this is someone who's like, you know, being a change maker, but also planting the seed for future generations to be change makers. And that's what really, you know, for me was a no-brainer. And I know we're talking very highly of Michael Taylor here and he doesn't have the opinion just to comment, but he will be a guest on the podcast in the near future. I can tell you that much. But yeah, it's just one of those things that was very humbling to know that he's walking the talk and he's doing amazing things and he's ticking the boxes and, you know, was physically planting the trees. And I think I just want to sit on this moment for a little bit about intention. I'm a very big believer of like the way that you intend as you're sowing a seed or the way that you're planting a tree. You know, if you're doing these kind of like $1 billion tree things, like you don't really care on the strike rate. Like the contractor on the tractor who is there planting those, like they're just there to get their job. You know, they get, you know, the fee per tree and done. You know, where Michael, this is his family farm that's been in the farm for generations. He's looking on how to improve the landscape. He's doing all these amazing projects. Like every time he's planting a tree, it's done with intentions of this is a MetaTree number 46. Like someone owns this. Here's the ID tag. You know, there's the photo of it. Putting the information in the spreadsheet. Like there's so much intention there that I just can't see why we wouldn't have such a high strike rate.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. So each tree is guaranteed survival up to 5 years, which is typically when I guess the seedlings die, which is like within the first 5 years. So once it hits the 5 years, it's pretty much fine. But with this project, it's guaranteed to survive 5 years, and if it doesn't, then it gets replanted. So I guess that's the attention to detail that we're looking at, and really making sure that it's, you know, you are actually adopting a tree.
Same. Yeah, no, I agree. And, you know, and the fact that that's kind of part of the fingerprint of the tree, it's like it was planted in 2023, it failed in 2025, it was replanted in 2026, and now it's surviving. You know, like that's all part of that tree ID, you know, that there's history behind it and there's a journey, and that's all part of nature. Some will, some won't. You know, and even if you did have a failure tree, that's part of the story and the journey that someone replanted it. Because in the other projects, it's too bad, too sad.
Yeah.
You know, lost effort, lost, you know, everything. So, so what made why did we want to track so much metadata on these trees? And like, what are some of the things, you know, we are tracking?
Yeah. So the species, function, location, So then that will all be on a map.
Yep.
On the website. There will be when it was planted photos, and then we'll do a video and aerial shots of just everything in general. I think currently that's what comes to top of mind.
Yeah, but then the name. If someone wanted to plant it in memory of someone,
yeah. But I mean, like if someone wants more information on it, then Oh, and I guess the number of years too. Like
it's
if you get that from your planting date, then but like this can be community led. So if someone wants to know a particular thing about this plant, like their tree, then go ahead, send an email in or whatever.
Is it a regenerative farm? Would have to be with that much tree species.
Yeah, I think when we were talking to Michael, I think a lot of farmers at the moment are a bit about regenerative agriculture, just because it's become so much of an overused kind of buzzword, greenwashing. So even though he doesn't use pesticides or herbicides, he's a grazier. So I mean, and he's planting all these trees. I don't think he goes around saying he's I'm a regenerative farmer or like things like that. But I mean, talking to him and seeing his passion for his farm, I guess that is the true meaning behind regenerative farming. Not just going, I don't use Roundup, I don't apply any fertilizer, I don't do any of this. It's I guess Michael has the real heart behind the regenerative movement, which is more important than saying you're a regenerative farmer.
Yeah, looking at the many parts that make up the whole, that kind of all look at nature as the answer of, because I know we even spoke about silvopastures with him as well.
Yes,
where he's running his cattle through.
Sheep.
Oh, sheep. Through the forest, I guess, or the tree corridors, and I think that's quite important as well to understand. As like sometimes the animals want to be. I know, with cattle, they want to scratch up against tree trunks and, eating the bark.
Yeah, and they eat the leaves too.
Then the leaves, it's like different nutrients, different
very mineral rich.
Access to, other fodder. Is that what you call it? Fodder?
Yeah, tree fodder. Yeah. And like a leaf is going to have a different mineral profile to grass, and a tree is going to be accessing different nutrients way deeper into the ground than a lot of our grasses. And so this comes back to the functionality of our farms. And so if we just have grass, even it might be a really diverse grass mix, it's only going to be accessing even like a meter into the ground. Whereas a tree, they're going to be accessing a lot more deeper into the soil profile. So this adds to the functionality of the land, that those nutrients and minerals are going to come up into the leaves, they're going to drop. An animal is going to eat them, cycle. It contributes to the cycling of the whole property. So it's a lot more than just one tree does this, but it's almost synergistic with everything else.
Yep, and I think that's another way of looking. Like people have say forest on the back part of their paddocks, and it's like, well, that's unfarmable land, and it's like, well, maybe just in the paradigm that we know, but I know pigs love going out into like foraging and going out into kind of wild and all that. So I think there is ways where we can push the boundaries, try new things. And I know that Michael is playing around on the fringe of some of those things where we kind of are really excited about testing different things, like having test paddocks, having, what does it look like if this is true? What if it does look like if that's true? And I think I don't know if it was on Michael's website or if he shared this with us, but he's increased his lambing rates, he's increased his the fineness of his wool. So having this integrated system with his trees, like the trees that he's already planted, it's really actually has improved his production system. Just like the quality of his farm output, so his wool and his lambs, it's even better with the trees. Crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not for everyone, different people's landscapes are different. This works for Michael.
Well, that's the thing. Like if you're in rangelands, a bit more further west, like so we're in Sydney, further west is a lot drier for all our international listeners. But yeah, those landscapes typically don't have as many trees. They're more grasslands. I guess in the States you'd have the prairies.
Yeah. What do they mean by savanna? What does that mean, grassland?
I think I think that's more like shrubs.
Okay.
Yeah. Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's more grasslands. Yeah. I think with the odd tree here and there.
So, do we want to tell people how they can get a hold of a MetaTree if they want to adopt one? Do you think that's something we want to talk about? Or?
Oh, yeah. So, just head to the website, metatrees.com.au. You'll see all the information there. You'll see the map. Basically, you just on the website, there's just a payment processing function. Yeah, gateway there, and you just buy as many as you like. Buy one for Christmas, buy one for a gift for someone. They are $100 each.
200, aren't they?
$100.
Oh,
yeah. And so half of that goes to supporting Michael Taylor, which compensates him for planting the tree, taking care of the tree, guaranteeing that the tree survives for 5 years, as well as fencing to make sure that the trees are safe from his sheep while they're still young.
Plus all the environmental benefits that will come for decades, if not centuries, on the landscape as well. And so when we first launched this project, we got a little bit of pushback because of the price. How do you speak to that? Like, people go, $100 a tree, are you kidding?
Well, it's not $100 a tree. It's $100 for this impact that you're having. So if you were to... So one tree, I'd say, in this project is a lot more impactful than one tree in a monoculture project, because you're getting all the additional ecosystem functions from having an integrated system.
Yep.
Because you have the sheep, because you have the grasslands effectively.
Yep.
You're having
the
carbon. But also the range of tree species in this project, it's all synergistic. So you're going to get 1 + 1 isn't equal to 2. In this case, it's 11.
Yeah.
And so the impact that you would have with, I guess, $100 in this project, I believe, outweighs $100 in a billion tree planting project.
Yeah.
And it's also guaranteed. Like, it's a guaranteed. This tree is going to last at the very least 5 years. After the 5 years, there's a very low death rate, I guess.
Yeah, and obviously we can't guarantee if, unfortunately, a natural disaster happens.
Yeah, if lightning hits and
fire,
or in
all those things.
In the 6th year.
Yeah,
that's nature, I guess.
Yeah.
Supporting nature.
Yeah.
So if you want to support regenerative farmers and
I think that's the key part as well, is that the farmer or whoever was planting the trees was going to get the majority of the funds that came from this tree. It wasn't so much we're a company that's taking donations and we're going to keep 60% of it for overheads, and then a very small portion of it actually goes to the cause. We kind of flipped that on its head and said, how do we bring most of the money that comes in from this project to the farmer? And so, we've done that in a 2-part kind of payment system where the farmer gets cash injection at the start to plant the trees, and then
a bonus in the 5th year.
Bonus in the 5th year. So that way farmers that we partnered with didn't walk away from projects, and we had, an agreement and holding each other's hand over that 5-year period. And so that's how we can, guarantee that, the farmer's going to be working on this project for 5 years, because their bonus payment will come at a delayed gratification, which I think is really cool, because it's more of that long-term planning. And
it's guaranteed, a guaranteed tree at the end of the 5 years.
Yeah.
It's not like, you support, 20 trees in this other tree planting project and they all die, but you don't really know.
And so how we, how do you feel, do you think this is a project that can be duplicated, or do you want to make other people inspired to go and do their 1,000 tree or 10,000 tree or tree with purpose planting projects?
Yeah, man. You can't have enough trees, so I reckon just make sure you plant them in a range of species so you get that diversity. I don't know. Are we open to expanding past our 1,000?
I don't know. Maybe if the right proposal comes forward, we can, tackle that, case by case. But I think it's definitely been, a large part of our year. I think what happened, and just to share a little bit of the journey, is we were very excited about planting trees. And so we thought everyone else was going to be really excited about planting trees. And so we went to market and the early adopters kind of came in and bought the trees, which was great. And then the other people were like, well, I want to know where the tree's going to be planted. And I guess we kind of thought, does the where really matter? But to other people, it did matter. You know, they wanted to know, some people even asked us, can I come and plant my own tree? You know, that's how personal people wanted to be with the project. So then location did matter. You know, I guess a lot of people from overseas were talking about things of, oh, when I come and visit Australia, because it's on my bucket list, I want to be able to come and see my tree that I've planted. You know, that's kind of the depth people got, that we wanted to have that one-on-one relationship. So the where did matter. And I guess that's where kind of a lot of the marketing exercises slowed down until we found the where. And then more importantly, we also found the who, you know, because Michael's been that, you know, amazing person to yarn on the phone about, because he's just full of energy and has some really great ideas, and, you know, spoke to us about species and what works in his area and, you know, things like that. And then now we went back to everyone and said, now we know our where, like this is the farm it's going to be planted on, and here's the history of that farm. So I think from our point of view, it's been a long project, mainly because at the start we didn't really know where they were going to go and who was, you know, we were throwing out ideas and we're going to roll up our sleeves and go above. And, you know, people were like, are you sure you want to do that? Like, you know, you need picks, you need, you know, guards, you need, you know, you got to think about strike rate, and like, you know, it's not just about putting a hole and, you know, putting a tube stock in it. It's about really understanding the landscape and assessing the land. And we're like scratching our head going, did we bite off more than what we can chew?
No.
You know, and I know you're more on the landscape reading side of the world than I am. So we would have done it. And that's what I like about us, is that we will roll up our sleeves and get shit done even if we have to. But we're very fortunate that we met Taylor.
It was more about location and then supporting Michael Taylor do it. Yeah, that's even better.
Yeah, because that's the other thing as well. Like, you know, putting the trees on a land just to solve that where, but then with the wrong who, you know.
Yes, yeah, and then they don't survive, and then you might as well
cash grab, doesn't care, doesn't water them, you know, doesn't. Yeah, it's like, I think the who in hindsight really mattered as well, which is, I think, is something we probably glazed over at the start of the project. We're just too excited about having an impact with trees, and this kind of came from like even looking at. Did this kind of come from like carbon projects and looking at tree canopy and the amount of carbon that can be kind of captured in trees?
No, I don't think it was, because I don't think we're ever going to put a carbon credit program.
No, but we're talking about how much carbon could be.
We're estimating it. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very hard to estimate, because you've got all the root exudates, and you know, it's a lot more than just simply going, you know, this is the mass of the tree, this is, you know, how much carbon like is in that. There you go. That's the amount of carbon you sequestered. I think it's a lot more complicated.
And I think a lot of people now, like, because I think there used to be a test where you measure the circumference of a tree, and you could calculate how much carbon. But I think what a lot of people have realized now is the way the tree starts its first couple of years of growth can define the amount of carbon. And whether it's a slow growing tree or a fast growing tree, you know, the gap between its rings in a tree.
The density of
is all playing a big part. So that whole rule of just measuring a trunk and doing a calculation is kind of becoming a bit more, a bit more of just like a rule of thumb. But people are starting to see that if a tree is inoculated with mycorrhizal fungi and it has like a really strong adaptation to the soil, in good soil, it sequesters so much more carbon in its trunks than a tree that's grown in poorly, poor soil and not inoculated with fungi. So it doesn't have that attachment to the soil on day one.
And also, you get all the benefits around it. Like the tree is going to be cycling different nutrients not available to the grass around it. And so I guess the idea would be that those grasses around the tree now have a greater supply of all these different minerals. They might be deeper in the soil profile. And so when you look at the additional benefit that the tree would bring to the grasses next to it, it's all synergistic, as I said before.
Yeah.
You're going to sequester more carbon doing that. than if it was just the tree by itself.
I was at Purpose Conference a couple of weeks ago, and the company called Air Cedar were there.
Oh, yeah.
And they had some plants of tube stock on their display. And so what Air Cedar do is they roll up seed pods. So they put seeds in clay, or not, maybe it's not clay. I don't know what I mix it with. I think it might be clay actually, but they also use worm castings.
Oh, okay.
And so they make these little seed pod balls and they feed them into a drone, and the drone drives around and drops these seed pods in areas that need to be regenerated. Yeah, for trees. So their next kind of project, and the pods that everyone was rolling, so they kind of made it like a little fun activity where you could go and roll your own seed pods. Those seed pods are going to be thrown using drone technology in Lismore post floods. So there's some really big floods in Lismore last year, and a lot of vegetation was lost. And so they're going to be revegetating certain parts of that using drone technology, so that way seeds can be planted at night, basically. And what I found interesting is they had some tree tube stock on display where one was the seed just put into high quality topsoil or soil, and the other one was the seed pod planted in the same soil. And the growth rate difference, I was told that they are the same age.
Oh, okay.
And so one was, no jokes, probably about 3 to 4 centimeters out of the soil, and the other one was 15 centimeters out of the soil. Just because it had worm castings around the seed.
Yeah, worm castings are amazing. I did a trial at home, one of our paddocks. Just one group of seeds, I was using oats, was inoculated with worm castings. It was a vermiculture extract, so it was a little bit different to just like worm wheat. But basically, the root on these oats were like twice as big and twice as wide, and they're very robust. And it's interesting to look at the top of the plant because you couldn't actually tell the difference on the top of the plant.
Really?
And pretty cool.
Yeah,
I guess the oat plant was putting more energy into developing its roots. Unfortunately, the trial got flooded, so I couldn't finish it. But I would have guessed that the plant's putting a lot more energy into its roots, and then come later on in its growth, it will then transfer that energy into then either reproductive yield or more vegetative yield, depending on how you manage it.
Or drought resistance.
Well, that's the thing.
Happened,
and if you have half the biomass and twice the amount of roots, you only need, the amount of more soil that plant is accessing is twice the amount as another plant. And it's also supplying, I guess, a lesser amount of above ground biomass. So it just seems to work really well. Yeah.
I know. It's I sometimes just shake my head because it feels simple for me, and I think sometimes people go, "Oh, but you don't have a farm, you don't know what it's like being out on the field and in the paddocks." But my brain's also wired to work smarter, not harder. And I think with the way that I'm kind of yes, and what else? Yes, what else? Yes, what else? I think we do need to approach these things with open minds, and if dipping the seed in a mycorrhizal fungal dust to inoculate it does something, then just trial it, just experiment, like what you're doing in your own backyard, doing these samples and just seeing the results. I remember you sending me those photos, and the root mass was
it's crazy,
completely different. And then here's another evidence with Air Cedar doing their kind of tests on seeds and seeing that the results are speaking for themselves. And if you're going to be dropping seeds from a drone, then you kind of want to stack all the odds, in your favor that plant is going to, because they're rolled up in clay and these balls, they can literally germinate on the surface. The ball, and then the ball, the roots start going down, and then that ball will kind of just disappear or become part of the landscape as the rains happened. And
how big are they?
I would say they are the size of
a Malteser.
No, a little bit bigger. Yeah, between
but not a golf ball.
Yeah, between a Malteser and a golf ball.
Oh, okay.
That's the happy medium.
Okay.
Not the size of a golf ball. Maybe they were the size of Maltesers, but they felt a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminded me of those candy machines where you put the 20 cents in, or maybe now it's $2 inflation, and you turn the thing and the ball came down the spiral, and then you collect the bubble gum down the bottom. That's kind of what their drone looked like. It had a whole heap of these spirals.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It had maybe 6 or more cylinders, maybe 8 cylinders, and it would just fly around. And what was really cool is they could have different species in each cylinder.
Yeah, nice.
So as it's flying around, species 1 drops, and then it flies a little bit more, and species 2 drops, or or they could drop all 6 in one location, and let nature decide which one
which is going to survive,
or which one the bird picks up and moves to a different location, and things like that. So. Yeah, so I don't know. I just thought it was really cool, and the fact that we spoke the other day about precision agriculture. With using drone technology and GPS, you can get to the point where this tree gets planted in this GPS location, that tree gets planted.
You upload your maps to the drone, and it does it all for you.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, you go.
It's like a printer. I think when we talk about precision agriculture, I like thinking of it as like a printer. A printer prints ink to a page. We have no idea how that one little droplet of ink knows to land on that particular part of the page. And if 3 colours of inks land on top of each other, it changes the colour to the whole spectrum of all the colours that are available.
Crazy.
It is crazy. And so a printer goes left to right over a piece of paper, and then at the end you have an image. Precision agriculture and drone technology works exactly the same. Dropping the right pixel at the right spot, the right seed at the right, 30 by 30 centimetre of land, and we can literally kind of print landscapes in the future, which is kind of cool.
Pretty cool.
It is. So any thoughts that you want to end this conversation on when it comes to trees? Like, why do trees matter so much, and what's your passion to trees, and what's your favourite tree?
Oh, my favourite tree? Oh, that's a hard... I think... it sounds a bit basic, but oak trees. I think they're just really strong mycorrhizal, fungal colonizers.
Is that why
I think
truffles grow on them?
Oh, no, I actually have no idea. Okay. Yeah.
The truffles are a fungi, and I know that you got to inoculate the oak tree to grow truffles.
Yeah, is it just oak or?
Yeah, just oak.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but that's not
pretty sure
why they're my favourite. I think in Australia, a lot of our trees have been cleared away for farmland, and I mean at the time it sounded, it was probably a fine idea, it sounded fine, so don't blame anyone for it. And also you kind of had to make that land your own. So I mean, if I was told I could have some land if I just cleared the trees, I would.
Totally. Everyone in their right mind would do that. That's why I hate when people are advocating about this stuff and going, anyone in that same position would make exactly the same decision. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, for a $10 million farm nowadays, 2,000 hectares, you've just got to clear some trees.
I don't know if a lot of people know that that's how land was handed out in the
was that or
freeholding is what they called it.
Yeah, or soldiers settler blocks. Yeah.
Yep. Government basically had the problem of we need more sheep because we need to feed meat to the locals. So they would identify a bit of land and say, who wants to be a sheep farmer? And then people would apply and then go, great, you've qualified to be the caretaker of that land, or freeholding they called it. And then freeholding just kind of dissipated into you're the land owner, and then multiple generations down the track you're sitting on a multi-million-dollar land asset. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah. I got a mate in Victoria, and I think he's 5th or 6th generation farmer there.
Yeah.
And he was saying originally when his great-grandparents, whatever great it is, came out, they were told, if you can plough it, you can have it. And this was back when it was just horse-drawn, ploughs. But basically on this hillside, this super sketchy hillside, you could still see the plough marks going up the tree, up the hill, because, if you can get another row in, that's more land.
Yeah.
Super funny. But anyways, I was going to say, we haven't entered the project into a carbon credit project, just because I'd rather, I guess, the trees just serve as they are. Don't want it to be, the carbon credits to be produced and then, sold to a mining company, and it takes away from the value that the trees are putting in. So I just want to be positive and almost makes it less complicated.
Yeah. I think we definitely found that is that if we tried to create derivatives of the project, it started really complicating, if someone, so I agree. I think we found that the less is more principle mattered here, where it's just keep it simple. We're planting trees.
Yeah. If you want to support one, support one. Otherwise it's okay.
Go and adopt one. Yeah, so just as a reminder for everyone, it's metatrees.com.au. You can also Google it. We're in no way affiliated with Meta and Facebook, which a lot of people think. Meta is a openly used word that is in the dictionary.
Yeah, it comes from to change or like
metamorphosis.
Metamorphic rock.
Yeah,
under pressure it becomes something else.
And I thought it was good because it was a double meaning. Like in the digital world, which I come from, when you have metadata, it's like, a website has metadata.
It's a data that describes the data.
Set. What's the title? What's the description? And the fact that we were doing trees that had like all these metrics, we have the metadata on the MetaTrees, which is kind of fits the name. But then everyone's like, this is linked to Zuckerberg, and I don't want to be involved in the conspiracy theories that exist around Zuckerberg. And like, it really pissed me off that, Meta and Facebook was actually able to change their name to something that was such a common word in the dictionary that had meaning. It should never have happened. But anyway, here we are.
Yeah.
So you can ask me my favorite tree?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, what's your favorite tree?
Had FOMO. Yeah. So my favorite tree is the ginkgo tree.
Tell me more. I haven't heard of that.
Well, I have the ginkgo leaf over there.
Yeah.
Over there. Actually, I might get it for the video people. So if you are watching on video, and this is my little plug to go and watch the video version of the podcast, but this is an artwork from Japan that is in the shape of a ginkgo leaf. And I think that's what really drew me to the ginkgo leaf is
you're right.
It's very unique in its pattern. It's used a lot in Asian art. It's becoming a lot more common now. Like if you search ginkgo jewelry, like there's amazing jewelry that has the ginkgo leaf on it. And then if you Google the tree and its meaning, that's kind of what blew my mind, because I was always like, I loved the ginkgo tree. And then I read its description, and it's kind of like a tree of power and dominance, and and it's a protector tree. And so they grew ginkgo trees around temples, and it was to protect from fire and natural disasters. And so a lot of the temples in Japan and China will have ginkgo trees in a high density right around the temple, because it's a tree that has like deep roots and it's very solid, and it works hard. And the more I read the description of the tree, I'm like, holy moly, this is like describing my work ethics and how I like.
Yeah, maybe we should plant one for you.
Well, I hope so. Well, yeah.
If they grow up in New England.
Yeah, well, they're pretty hardy tree. They're anyway, and they lose their leaves in autumn. They go from green coloured to yellow. You see the spectrum change, and they're a really fun leaf and very unique. And I guess that's what kind of always drew me to the ginkgo tree, is that it looked different to every other tree that was out there. So.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'll have to go Google that now.
Now you know something about me that you didn't know before.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I have a couple of evidence. Oh, actually, they're also up on that Chinese fan up the top. See the koi? And
I see. Leaf? Yeah.
So I kind of had this phase where I would go and just, if I saw artwork that had the ginkgo leaf in it, I would just buy it. It was like, that's the rule, I buy it.
$4,000. Well, easy spend.
I'm not going to deny or admit that I have done that before. Anyway, so that's the ginkgo tree. If it piqued your interest, go check it out. Don't know if Mike will be planting any. Maybe he will in my honour. But yeah.
It's just your tree. Yeah.
So there is a limited number of trees left in our project. So just wanted to highlight that we're in kind of like the last phase now of getting the last set of trees adopted. They're all in the ground, so they're waiting to be claimed and owned and loved and cherished for the rest of the tree's life. So if you're sitting there thinking that you want to do some more impactful things, head over to the website, $100 for the tree, guarantee the longevity of that tree being planted. I think it's like 60+% of the money goes directly to Michael Taylor from memory. If not even more now, with like the fact that we've changed some of the parameters around on the project and things like that. So, most of the money is going to the farmer to plant the trees and support their enterprise over the 5-year period, not straight away. So, so that's really honored to be part of the project. I always say that like MetaTrees was probably one of the projects that I was most proud of, because each tree is also linked to a bit of an artwork that sits on blockchain, but that's just part of our way of like creating the digital fingerprint of that. But it was a fun project to get off the ground, and I remember launching it. I think it was March. Was it this year? Was it the year?
That was last year.
Wow, so it's over
it's
2
gone a
years.
while. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, well, that just shows like how long we stick at things. And wow, so that was like March. So this March coming in 2024 will be 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
And, you know, that just kind of shows how long it can take sometimes to find the where and the who. And, you know, if you wait, the right person will present. Because I think at the start we were rushing to get them on any tree. And we're like, well, let's go and plant 10 at the local park just to get it done, you know, but never felt right.
No.
You know?
Yeah. This is good.
Yeah. So
it's also difficult because it's like, in Michael's case, he wanted to plant them in spring. And so we met him, I think the start of this year. And so it's like you can't really plant anything until spring. So, you kind of have to wait. But these things take a long time. You know?
I think it's just the truthness of nature, you know. You need to learn the art of patience. You know,
because we planted them all like then, they may have not have survived.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we would have just kind of keep falling over. But, you know, it's going to take, I think we live in a world where we push a button and the app's open. We push a button, the website loads. We push another button, money's moved across the world. So because we live in this kind of instant gratification, nature shows us that you can't just push a button and the tree's 20 years old. It takes 20 years for the tree to be 20 years old. And so like there's, you know, even when I had my farm in Victoria, like that was one of the things that always come up for me being on the land, that things are slow, you know, seasonal. You got to pick the right time. You can't just come in from the tech world where you're just like, oh yeah, I'll write a line of code.
Go.
I can fix that. Oh yeah, I can build a you know, an Excel spreadsheet to make those calculations happen. Like everything's solvable online and in the digital world. And then you like plant a tree and you're like, now I've got to wait.
Yeah, everything takes so long. Yeah. I mean, if anything like our farm, there's like, so if you want to go do a job, you got to like, say you got to go find the star picket pull-up outer, and it's like, you don't know where it is. And so then you got to like, you know, go talk to 5 different people about, you know, where it is, and everything takes so long just for a simple job.
All I wanted to do is put a hole here. It's taken me all day.
Yeah, honestly, it's like that sometimes.
I reckon there's a lot of farmers nodding and laughing.
Oh yeah, it's like, and then you look at the shed and you're like, oh, I know why, because it's just in a mess.
Not in my shed. That would never happen. I have a place for everything and everything in its place. It's my rule. I'm very much on.
Yeah, but here in the office, like, I mean, you probably can't see it on the video, but it's like everything has like everything has like an outline. Yeah, it's very neat.
Yeah. Because, you know, if you're going to move fast, you have to be ready all the time. And that just, you know, comes from my...
You got to know where the drill bits are.
Yep. Yeah. Nothing irks me more than when you spend 45 minutes trying to find something that should just be in its place.
Yeah, we have a loose bucket just full of drill bits.
After end this conversation.
If you want to find the right one, you just got to like sift through this big bucket of just drill bits. It does my head in. Anyways.
It's not how I flow. So unfortunately, order. But yeah, anyway, so that we digress a little bit, but you get to know a little bit more about how we operate.
And how our sheds are structured.
My desktop is neat. There's hardly any icons on my desktop.
Oh, yeah.
How's your desktop?
I can't say it through the sticky notes.
There you go. And, you know, the world needs balance. So some order, some disorder. And nature is very disorder, but there's some kind of order to the chaos. And I think the thought that I'll wrap this conversation up is, you know, the kind of proverb that, you know, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
It's very profound.
And the second best time to plant a tree is today. So on that, soil lovers, we'll leave you with that thought. If MetaTrees is the project that helps you plant a tree today, then go and check out our website. Of course, website links and all the call to actions will be around the video, whether it be on YouTube or on your podcast player. Teale, do you want to give a little bit of a plug to your YouTube channel as well?
Agriculture Explained. Go check it out. Learn more about agriculture.
Yeah, because there's lots of informative videos there, and I love your whiteboard, blackboard diagrams. Explanations. I need more of them.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, give recommendations. It's basically high school level agriculture content. So if you want to learn more about, you know, cover crops or soil properties, you know, nutrition, all that kind of stuff, go check it out. It's,
how the gut of a ruminant animal works.
Yeah, that's probably like one of my best performing videos.
Yeah, I know. I saw. I was looking at your video history the other day. So Agriculture Explained links will also be around the Regenerative Hour podcast, where myself, Regen Ray from Secrets of the Soil podcast, and Teale Simmons from Agriculture Explained come together to just yarn about regen, for an hour.
Yeah.
Or a little bit less in today's case.
Yeah.
It's roughly an hour, give or
Yeah,
take.
more or less. Yeah, ish.
Awesome. All right, on that note, until next time, soil lovers, get outside, get your hands dirty, and keep digging deeper into the wonderful world of soil. I'm Regen Ray.
I'm Teale. Cheers.
See you next time.
See ya.
Well, soil lovers, that's enough secrets for one episode. I really hope that you enjoyed all the secrets shared during this conversation. But hey, let's not keep it a secret. Please share this podcast around and make sure that you like it and leave us a review, because that really helps spread the secrets of the soil. Until next time, remember, get outside, get your hands dirty, and keep digging deeper into your soils.